With Fantasy Football Week 1 action officially in the books, I want to talk through three players that I think outdid themselves in Week 1. Three players at the running back position that I'm selling high on here in Week 2, and I'm looking for some more advantageous situations and players to bring back onto my rosters. Of course, if you're new around here, make sure to drop down and click that subscribe button. We're posting multiple fantasy football content videos here on YouTube every single day, in addition to YouTube Shorts, TikToks, Instagram Reels, and of course, the occasional tweet as well out on Twitter. So go check out all that stuff. The links to that can be found in the description of today's video, and make sure to smash that like button before we get started. Of course, I'm here to be an interactive tool for you guys, so if you have trade scenarios for me, drop those in the comment section below, and I'll get back and help as many of you as I possibly can for this week. So without further ado, that was a lot of talking. Let's jump into my first sell high candidate here at the running back position for Week 2 fantasy football. All right, here we go. Miles Sanders is a player that I am selling high on this week after a very impressive Week 1 performance, but an expected impressive game here in a matchup where Philadelphia's offensive line was significantly more talented than their counterpart on the defensive line for the Detroit Lions. The Eagles had their way in this contest, pushed those players around, and that led to a very, very efficient outing here for Miles Sanders. The reason that I'm mainly turned off on Miles Sanders and want to get him off of my teams here is I think that he kind of toyed with his ceiling this week. If I'm being completely honest, this is not a top 12 fantasy football running back for 2022. This is not a player that I view as an extremely dependable option on a week-to-week basis, and not somebody that I expect to give me workhorse level numbers on a consistent basis. If we go back and look at the numbers and the statistical production from Sanders this week, we've got a 13 attempt rushing line for 96 yards, nearly cracked the century mark there, on 7.38 yards per carry and one rushing touchdown. Those numbers are great, but like I said, it was expected. That efficiency was really optimistic from us this season, or we were optimistic about his ability to have that efficiency this week because of that mismatch up front between the Eagles and Lions fronts in terms of what the Eagles offensive line brought to the table for this team. So the things that concern me about this backfield situation, like I touched on briefly in the beginning of this take here, are the facts that I don't expect him to be a workhorse running back. This is a player that caught both of his 2 targets for 2 receptions and 9 yards this week, but in what was a very, very positive game script for this team. The Lions crawled back late and were able to make it a 3-point contest, but the Eagles blew the doors off these guys in the first half. It was a very widespread margin. I believe it was like 38-14 at one point. I could be wrong on that, but it was something close to that. And they were front running for the majority of this contest. That's not something I expect to happen regularly for Philadelphia. They're a very good football team. They are going to lead in a lot of contests, but not by, 24 points or whatever. I'm not very good at math, so I apologize if that's, again, wrong, but it's correct, I think. Regardless, Miles Sanders is not going to have 20-plus touch games on a frequent basis. For a guy that put up 18.5 fantasy points in half PPR this week, I'm looking to hit that sell button. Another primary reason for concern that I have, and the reason that I don't view him as a workhorse running back, is because this is really a 3-man committee here in Philadelphia. The snap percentages, as follows from the running back core this past week, are 52% for Miles Sanders. You've got 18% to Boston Scott, and 30% bouncing the direction of Kenneth Gainwell. So yes, while Miles Sanders is the clear lead in this offense, all 3 of these players scored rushing touchdowns this week. If you don't have a clear and established goal line back, that touchdown production, which Miles Sanders did not score a touchdown all of last season, all summer long I was yapping that's not going to be the case again. He's going to score a touchdown this year. It so happens that it came in week 1, and I'm not saying he won't score more touchdowns this year, because I believe he will. But what's kind of spooky is when you're given 5'6" players like Boston Scott goal line reps, as well as your third down scat back in Kenneth Gainwell, and while he's a bit more than a scat back, he's actually a really solid and well-rounded, polished player. That's a problem. You've got also a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who added a 4th rushing touchdown to the table and to the fold here with his legs in this game. So 4 different players in the Eagles offense, which yes, was the number 1 rushing offense in football last year, all had separate and individual rushing touchdowns this week, so that makes it very, very hard to project this going forward. Additionally, you're going to get some option plays in the goal line, whether that be Sanders or someone else in this backfield, where Jalen Hurts is going to vulture that TD away. The defensive line linebacker core is going to sell on the fake inside, and Jalen Hurts will pull that football out and whip around the edge of his, whether he's running off tackle or he's got some sort of a crack block coming from an offensive guard around the edge, whatever it is, he's going to score touchdowns on the goal line as well. So it's not like it's a cut and dry answer every single week to who's going to get that work. And then finally here, the receiving involvement does concern me. Just 2 receptions. Again, he did catch both of his targets for 9 yards, but Kenneth Gainwell is the primary and preferred back for this football team. So I'm looking to sell Miles Sanders high this week, get some more value back in return for him, especially if you're a deep running back core. If you're not, maybe you look to upsell him for another running back that had a down week, someone you can project long term to have some really great really great production in lineups here as the season progresses. If you're looking for some names for that type of a thing, go check out our other videos from today. We've got 4 trade advice videos going up, one of those being must buy running backs here for week 2 fantasy action. Jamaal Williams is the next name I want to talk through here. Not someone that commands a super high price on the open market, but definitely someone whose stock in week 1 finds itself a bit higher than it should be. He's only owned in 35.9% of ESPN fantasy leagues, so a quick shout out to you guys. If you're watching this before Wednesday, go add Jamaal Williams if he's unrostered in your leagues. There's a chance that you could get a free player off the waiver wire and flip him for something of value to your team. Again, you're not getting a blue chip player back in return for Jamaal Williams, but you can sell him for more than he's worth. I would say really the only teams that I may hold on to Jamaal here for are potential DeAndre Swift owners in deeper leagues that can afford to have an extra bench space occupied by Jamaal Williams. However, coming off a game where he had just a 33% snap share, 67% of the snap share went the direction of DeAndre Swift. He had 13 total touches, again, on a 33% snap share. 11 rushes for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns. How did he do that? Simply 2 goal line rushing attempts. The fact that he was out there and used as the big back on the goal line for this team bounced his point production up much higher than it probably would have been, or obviously would have been had he not had those 2 opportunities. DeAndre Swift also scored a touchdown this week, so it's not like there's one concise goal line back for this offense. They're both very capable of doing work in that area of the field, and Jamaal just so happened to get those 2 very valuable touches. 2 out of the 3 bounce his direction for this week. So if you're talking about a touchdown dependent play in the first place, I'm not super interested. For that case alone, I'd be looking to move off of a fantasy football running back if we're counting on a touchdown scored for their relevancy to my lineup every single week. Again, sell high on Jamaal Williams. DeAndre Swift is clearly the lead back in this offense. He is a monster player for this season. He averaged 9.6 yards per carry. I'll do some really quick math here and calculate the averages for Jamaal Williams, who again had 28 yards on 11 rushes. You're talking about 2.5 yards per carry versus 9.6. Now, 9.6 is not sustainable for DeAndre Swift. That number will come back down to earth in future weeks here, but just showing and proving his level of dominance and authority in this offense. Swift also caught 3 of 3 passing targets for 31 yards, and again had 1 total touchdown. So this is a classic example of the reserve running back, a guy who has some smidgen of standalone value here, just going nuts and completely outdoing himself. Sell high on Jamaal Williams, the last time I'll say it today, and let's move on to our final player here. But before we get into Kareem Hunt, if you guys are enjoying today's video, make sure to click that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Again, I welcome your trade scenarios down in the comment section below. So if you got questions about that stuff, feel free to drop that down there and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But also, if you're looking to get an edge in your fantasy leagues this season, check out sizzlefantasy.com. The link is in the description of today's video, or you can scan the QR code in the top right-hand corner of your screen to take you to my website. There's information on there how to get access to myself as your personal fantasy consultant for this year. I'll help set your lineups every single week. I'll give you advice personally in our DMs on our community Discord server and get you hooked up, obviously, in my email address as well, so you can email me your questions if you so choose, but I prefer Discord for the most part if you guys can message me in that platform. But basically, check out sizzlefantasy.com. There's 3 different ways to get access to all that great stuff. One of them being through our friends at Underdog Fantasy. Fantasy. When you use code SFS, they double your money. They let you keep it all, and you get to play with it for fun props and DFS games for in-season play, as well as for free. As a perk of using code SFS, you get in-season advice personalized from myself for free for the entire season through the SFS All Access Pass on our website. So when you sign up, I get all the information I need. I'll email you guys the information that you need from me, and we'll get squared away from there. So Kareem Hunt is the final name that I want to talk through in today's episode. Running back for the Cleveland Browns. I am selling high on Mr. Kareem Hunt. Yes, I am not a big fan of Nick Chubb for fantasy football. I think his ceiling is somewhat capped and limited, and we actually saw some of that to an extent this week. However, Kareem Hunt's numbers ballooned in ways that they will not on a weekly basis here. There is a small outlier on a number that I was not expecting to see here, and that is in this game, Kareem Hunt outsnapped Nick Chubb 56% to 53% for Nick Chubb. However, again, like I said, Nick Chubb is the first, option for this offense, especially in the run game. I do love the receiving value that Kareem Hunt brings to the table, but just like Jamaal Williams, you got yourself a situation here where Kareem Hunt vultured 2 touchdowns. Now, he's very capable of doing that. He's going to have top 12 finishes as the reserve running back to Nick Chubb because he has such a focal involvement for this offensive attack here in Cleveland, especially with Jacoby Brissett under center. But you could legitimately sell Kareem Hunt for far more than he's worth here because of the fact that he simply just went out there and balled out while playing alongside Nick Chubb. The one caution and the one reason you may not want to sell Kareem Hunt is because in the event something happens to Nick Chubb, or if you're a Nick Chubb owner, in which case you would really want to have Kareem Hunt around, is that if Chubb were, if something were to happen to Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt instantly becomes a top 5 to 7 play on a weekly basis because he's going to soak up the vast majority of those opportunities for the Browns rushing and receiving phases of things. He did have 15 total touches this week. You like to see that. He produced like an RB1, like I said, but he had 70 total yards on those 15 touches and 2 total touchdowns, good for 20 fantasy points and half PPR scoring. So I think that that's a little bit unrealistic to expect of him on a weekly occurrence here. He did only have 39.47% of the opportunity share of the Cleveland backfield. So what that means is of all the touches distributed between the running backs in Cleveland, aka Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, he had just 39.47% of the touches. So about 40% of the workload, 4 in every 10 touches that were distributed throughout that backfield went his direction. Chubb is still being utilized more. His opportunity share when he's on the field is quite a bit higher, even though his snap share was a bit lower this week. It's one of those unique situations. You don't normally see that be the case, but that's something I've noticed here over the past couple of seasons with these two playing together in the Browns offense. So regardless, Nick Chubb's weekly floor is better. As much as I knock his ceiling and have my own issues with Nick Chubb, I know a lot of you guys disagree with me about that, but it's just, something that clearly I believe in to a great extent here. Kareem Hunt definitely outdid himself, and I would far rather have Nick Chubb as a weekly lineup play than Hunt, despite the annoyance of those touchdown vulturing snaps. One of them was a play action pass in the goal line where he caught a TD, and the other was just a goal line rushing attempt for Hunt here. So the production will be sporadic. It'll be inconsistent here. He's a very, very talented player, but again, the value has seen an increase following his week 1 game, and I don't expect his production to maintain that level throughout this season. So if you guys enjoyed, again, one more time, make sure to click that like button, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the heck out of all you guys for watching. And again, I'll say it one last time. Let me know your questions and your trade scenarios in the comment section below. I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you make you a better fantasy player this season and ultimately win those league trophies at the end of the year. So thanks so much, you guys. Go check out the other 3 fantasy videos we have today for fantasy trades. We've got sells and buys for today. Go check that stuff out, and I'll see you there. Peace out.